Good afternoon and welcome to the Biggleswade Joint Committee. Please be aware that this meeting is being filmed by the Council and can be viewed on YouTube. By joining the meeting, you're deemed to have consented to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings for this meeting. Can I please remind members of the public that when speaking not to disclose any personal information of an individual, as this might infringe the rights of that individual and breach the Data Protection Act. Please avoid repeating points that have already been made on any item by another member. Anyone who's accessing the meeting remotely via Zoom and wishes to speak during the meeting, please raise your hand using the meeting functions and do not lower it until you've spoken or it's been lowered on your behalf. Please only switch your video on to the speaker. I think we'll make an exception to that because Nick, I'm quite happy to see your face. I would like to remind members to turn your microphone off once you finish speaking. So first item on the agenda is Chairman's announcements. I've got no announcements as such to make today, so I'm going to go straight into the minutes of the previous meeting. So page 1 of the minutes. Any issues, corrections, etc.?
Under BTC councillors, we have Councillor T. Stock, who I believe is not a BTC.
This is indeed correct. Missed that one. So
CBC.
She should be under CBC. And Councillor Dixon, you were here
as a standing item almost. Yes, I was here.
So yes. So
in the minutes, but not actually recorded.
Yeah. No. Okay, so we can make that correction. Any issues, accuracies on line page 2, page 3?
Yes, please. The very bottom paragraph on page 3, Councillor Russell stated that doesn't make sense, and I would suggest that it should read that the current proposed site has potential archaeological importance, because that's what I actually said.
Yeah.
So if we could erase being chosen as a result of, because it certainly wasn't chosen as a result of that.
I'll pick up that, Sean, later on.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay, page 4.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I think on the 4th paragraph from the bottom, it should be ACOM's government-funded design guide rather than plans. And then
so ACOM's government-funded
design guide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then in the bottom paragraph, what I actually said was the town council will have little control over residential planning applications because of new permitted development rights. So it needs residential before planning applications, and it needs new before permitted, and it needs will have instead of has. So I was making the point that the government had just brought in new permitted development rights, which gave us less control.
Thank you. Page 5.
That's the guide.
Yeah. Yes, where it's ACOM design guide again.
Yes. Yes.
Please. Thank you.
Okay. And anything on page 6?
Well, yes, I just wondered why with this Welcome Back Fund, we were saying here that the funding will be invested in adding a charter market to the town centre effort. We've had a charter market since medieval times, so can we just take that out? Pardon?
Since 1262.
Yes.
Well, we could have minutes for that.
So I don't think we needed the Welcome Back Fund to add a charter market. So I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
Sorry to be a pain.
No, that's fine. No problem. I read through the minutes, and to be fair, I didn't pick that up, so I'm quite right. Any other items and queries on page 6 or page 7? No. Okay, so the next thing is matters arising in relation to the minutes. So we'll go through the same process again. So matters arising in relation to items on page 1 of the minutes. Page 2 of the minutes. Page 3. Page 4.
I'm assuming that a lot of these things will come up with the speakers that we've got.
I'm guessing so, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
Page fine, there's nothing really there.
Can I just raise, ask for an update on the cycle scheme, please, so we get this meeting, so I'm assuming that will get picked up.
So I will pick that up as part of the, we go along. If we haven't, we'll let them jump it later. And anything, follow up on page 6. Anybody? No. And final one, page 7, the work plan. Okay. So I think we'll move straight on to the key part of the agenda. As we now have Ingrid here with us. Hello, Ingrid. We weren't quite sure, so we sort of made a provisional plan to potentially ask Trish to go first. But as you're here, if you don't mind starting off the update on it, etc., etc.
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself. So I think the next here today to give an update on the 2 highways related projects, the transport interchange. Sorry, I've just come straight from assets management group, so I'm all like, what am I talking about again? I think it's going to talk about the transport interchange and the replacement bridge at Lindsell's. I think I can talk a little bit about the power projects. I think you will have been aware that consultation has been ongoing on that one, and that UKPN and National Grid hopefully have been coming back to you with responding to your queries directly on that. I would say overall the consultation, residents were welcoming investment in the power infrastructure in the area. I think assisted by the fact that we had that whole petrol panic that weekend as well. So it was very high in people's minds that there was a need for power capacity in the area. But it seemed to be quite good. It kind of the normal concerns coming out of residents in terms of growth and infrastructure investment and the requirement there for balance on growth and investment, particularly people thinking about roads and GP services were the key issues that came out there, but nothing major. So that is carrying on. The work around the power project is carrying on as ever, and we'll be progressing to planning. What's our other one? The school. So the school one is consultation is just finished on that. The school site is being looked at, so feasibility studies now being done around the school site and location for that, and work being progressed on that. So overall programme running to time and budgets. I don't know if Nick wants to jump in now and talk about your projects, Nick.
Yeah, I can do. Hi everybody, nice to see you all again, not in person unfortunately. I'm going to share the screen. I've got a few slides. I don't know if that's helpful, just to help aid the conversation.
Thanks.
If I can do that, let me see how this is going to work. Desktop 1.
Zoom technology.
I don't know if it's going to actually work. Try desktop 1. Let's share that. Oh, look. No, it doesn't seem to be working for some reason. It's Zoom. I'm not sure that I'm used to Zoom. Just to update you, so last time we came through, well, I haven't spoken to you all as a group or individuals previously, but I've spoken to you like kind of separately along the way. As you'll know, we came through planning, and there was a couple of points that were picked up at planning that we've kind of moved forward with. One of them was about the placement of the zebra crossing. So we've resolved that and put it adjacent to, or as close as we possibly can, within the guidance and regulatory standards set down by the DFT, which is as close to that station forecourt as we possibly can. The other thing which came out of the planning was that we have a parking bay or a bay which we had set out for pick up and drop off or coach layover, and moving forward, what I'm going to do is we've kind of decided that the layover, we've got layover capacity working with Govia Thameslink for their rail replacement, their planned rail replacement services, and our regular bus services, either in the interchange in Govia Thameslink's own car park. But what we are going to do is I'm going to advertise as part of the statutory consultation on traffic regulation orders, the bay that is adjacent to the church, I think it is I'm going to advertise that as pick up and drop off only, 15 minutes, no return for an hour.
Can I ask Nick a question at this point?
Yeah.
As you're talking about TRO, obviously when it went to DMC, because the zebra crossing was outside the red line,
yeah,
it couldn't actually be agreed by DMC as part of the planning application. As you're going to be advertising the parking bay, are you going to also include the provision of the zebra crossing in the consultation?
Yeah. So the way that it works is we have to, it's a public notice, we got to notify people of zebra crossings, and we've got to do a statutory process for parking restrictions, speed restrictions, and all of those kinds of things. So we have got to formalise that in one way through the statutory process against the Highways Act. So that's what I'm talking about and doing. There's a number of TROs and notices that you have to do. They include the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit, zebra crossing, waiting restrictions for the pick up and drop off, no waiting at any time, which is where the double yellow lines are, no vehicles except buses on the interchange area, right turn only out of Palace Street, and potentially, I'm not sure if we don't actually have to do it, but it may be good practice to do the bus stop clearways on Church Street and Hitchin Street. Technically, we don't need to do that. We just need to line it, but it might be as part of the whole scheme worthwhile notifying people what we're intending on doing. So those are all of the kind of the traffic regulation orders and statutory notices that we've got to do to bring about the whole scheme. What we haven't done, and what I'm kind of waiting for with the wider town centre works, is a discussion about what happens around Century House, and whether or not we want to take an experimental order around that area to close off the return area or not. But that's something which I want to talk to everybody and get everyone's opinion on. And it needs to be set in the wider context, I think, of the town centre works and what's going on with everything else in the town centre.
Okay, so do you want some feedback at this point, Nick, or do you wish to carry on?
We can take feedback and then I'll do Lindsell's Crossing.
Okay, so I've got a question. You said about a layover near the church. I think I must have got myself a little bit confused what you're referring to there. Could you just expand on that for me, please?
So outside Church Street, outside of Asda,
yes.
there's a lay-by now.
Sorry,
which
Church
is
Street.
Church Street, yes. Sorry,
right, that's what confused you. Talked about the church, and I'm thinking I don't know. So the one near Asda, the lane there's a bus lane, etc. Yeah.
As it stands, it's set out as a lay-by. It has no bus stop clearway box, and it gets parked up regularly by a number of cars. And if we want to use that as a potential layover space, then we need to keep that clear for buses and coaches only. So the rules have changed insofar as we don't have to advertise formally the bus stop clearways anymore, but I think it's prudent to probably do it as a notice for people, so everyone's clear as to what we're intending to do.
I'm just going to have one more, and then I'll stop for a second. Just in relation to the interchange itself, you said about layover. So this is a change to what we had originally planned. And so the layover was going to not be within the interchange. You're now saying there is capacity within the interchange for layover.
in the short term, there is capacity and certainly layover as in rail replacement services. We'll be able to work with Govia Thameslink, and we're looking to put the protocol down with them to be able to call down their buses if they've got planned rail replacement services. They will lay over themselves in their own car park, and then they'll be called down to pick up and drop off from the interchange area.
Okay, no problem. Mark.
Thank you. Hi, Nick. One topic that we raised when Town Council discussed the interchange was the design of the bus shelters. The local plan calls for high quality shelters, and Town Council, if I recall correctly, was unanimously concerned that the shelters appeared quite drafty. There wasn't a door. It was unclear whether there was illumination. There was certainly no evidence of heating. And I know we asked for Central Beds to look again at the design of the shelters to see if they could be better and meet what we consider to be the definition of high quality. What progress has been made on that, please?
So we have revised drawings. The drawings are always in the design package for those bus shelters. They conform to the CBC standards.
So may I interrupt? I don't think Town Council thought the standards were good enough. So we were asking that you go back and look again. Yeah. Are the shelters that you're now proposing going to have doors?
So it's doubtful whether we will have doors or heating. We will. I think it will probably be the case that we'll be able to put some kind of seating in there. But
what about lighting?
They will be illuminated because the whole of the interchange will be illuminated sufficiently.
So externally. So I think that's quite disappointing. I don't think that has accommodated the feedback that the Town Council provided.
Okay.
I don't really see how you could consider a shelter to be high quality if it doesn't even have a door.
Okay. Well, I don't make the guidelines up. You know,
Nick, I mean, there must be some sort of standard.
Yeah, it's set down in.
I'm trying to pick a point with you. The problem with doors is people get themselves locked in.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. They can shut it and they can keep it shut to stop people getting in, but you can do like an offset dog leg to prevent weather protection. And to me, bus shelters, as much as anything, are about weather protection. Heating, very good point. You're going to get an EPC rating out on it. I doubt it, you know. So, but I think there must be some sort of standard that we can work to.
So the standard is
an absolute. I would say they're not the right thing to have. Weather protection is the key thing on bus shelters, front and sides and back. And
so it could be quite cold sitting in a bus shelter in winter for half an hour.
It could be.
Very drafty.
You could get there 5 minutes beforehand.
Buses don't always run to time.
You could be there. I accept that. So, you know, you could be getting wet through and cold walking to the bus shelter. So, you know, I think if you're going to make it, there must be a standard that we can consider first and foremost. And there might be practical reasons. My view is the security element of having a door on it, so you can't shut it. If someone's in there and they're probably from the outside, you shut in.
So if I just so in terms of the bus shelter, Nick, we've taken the feedback. Sounds as though we've got some clearly some difference of opinion of what's quality and what's not quality. Is it something you could just take away, have another look at, see if there's some sort of design that you could do, have a look at, so that it somehow meets, it's a compromise somewhere, so that not a door necessarily on the front, but as Councillor Dixon said, it's sort of a dog leg or some things to enhance the weather protection.
I can have a look at. We can have a look at the design.
Thank you.
Could I just come back?
Yeah.
Experience elsewhere. Quality is as much as anything to do with aesthetic. You can have a highly formed and functioning bus shelter, but it looks bloody horrible. So again, it's what's appropriate in terms of the aesthetic is quite important, and maintenance.
But function is also important. So I'm comparing it to the level of protection we have currently at Century House, I suppose. And if you look at that, that's quite well sheltered. No, but there's quite big gaps between the doors. And anyway, I think we've probably covered this enough, and it's great that Nick's agreed to have another look at it. But so far, it sounds like no changes have been made in response to the feedback that Town Council provided, and That's the part that I'm disappointed by.
Go on, Helen.
Very, very. I think my understanding is if you've got doors, it has to be manned because of the security concerns. So I think you're absolutely right. I don't think we can have doors, but I think you're right. It's about weather protection. If you think about the train station, the waiting spaces on there actually both open at both ends, and there is some seating, rudimentary, but it's seating, and it does protect you from the elements most of the time. And I think it's also considering the prevailing weather conditions, because it does tend to always come from one direction in this area. So I think it just needs a bit of thought. That's all.
Yeah, and I'll make the point that phone boxes have doors, so doors aren't that insurmountable.
Okay, I think, right, okay, thank you. We will move on.
Can I, please?
As long as it's not about bus shelters or seating.
It is not about bus shelters. Nick, we were talking at the station access about the increased costs, and I think you indicated that you fear that with the current situation, the cost of the interchange will go up. And that's relevant because one of the things we discussed previously was that if there were any money left over from the transport interchange itself, we might be able to do something with that island in St Andrews Street to make more parking spaces, because we're going to lose parking spaces at the top of Station Road on both sides because of the zebra crossing. We're also going to lose parking spaces in front of the church for the drop-off pickup, and we're going to lose parking spaces in Church Street because of the bus layover there, which was originally designed as a bus layover. So it was designed like that when Asda was built. But that's a lot of parking spaces we're losing. We couldn't make up for all of them, but we could make up for some if we could do something with that traffic island. And then I suppose the next question is, if there really isn't going to be money left over from the transport interchange, is there money from other Section 106 that we could use for that? Because it's imperative that we try and maintain the number of parking spaces we've got in the town, which aren't adequate anyway.
So the first question about costs, increased costs in construction industry at the moment. Our tender for the design and build contractor finished on Tuesday. We're currently in the process of reviewing those submissions, but the indication is that those submissions are within the budget that we had set aside for this. So I'm reasonably confident with that. In terms of your section 106, it's nothing, I don't know about the section 106 myself. It's something I know Sam Caldbeck knows about the town centre section 106, and I'm not sure who in highways if there is any money for any highways measures, highway schemes, any section 106 for that.
But
so I can just pick that up, shall I? So I have asked Sam, in working with Sarah Morgan now, to contact people and come up now with a plan around the section 106 that we've got allocated to the town centre in terms of town centre regeneration kind of approach. So we're hoping really that Sam and Sarah can crack on with that now, and we'll be coming back to you. So if that's a priority that you want to look at for that, it's certainly something we can take away. So we were looking at now sort of we were waiting in terms of Central Bedfordshire as an organisation, deciding on what the place approach was going to be, you know, and what the thinking was around that. But my feeling is now that we just need to move ahead now with the section 106 that we've got and make some decisions on that, because Sam is getting close to his deadlines on some of those funding streams. I think it's 130,000 that needs to be spent by early summer next year. So there are some issues like that. So I have been talking to Sam about that this week. So we do want to progress that, and I feel, as I'm sure many around the table here feel today, a bit tired now that we seem to go around in circles with that. So my steer to Sam this week is, let's get this done, let's make some decisions, let's crack on with a plan for Biggleswade and what we're going to spend that section 106 on. So we're hoping to agree a plan with you all on that by end of December. That is what we've said to Sam. So
Well, that's okay, but could I come back, please? That's okay, but I don't want this issue of parking spaces to get lost within everything else. And we've got two things here, haven't we? We've got the thing that Nick referred to, because we were going to have a workshop with transport engineers and councillors from both councils to look at traffic flow around the town centre in view of the new developments. But as I say, we're losing parking spaces. We've got that possible island that could have something done with it. We've also got to think about Church Street again, because we had parking spaces in Church Street when it was two-way, and now it's one-way, and there's no parking spaces except for that lay-by. And so traffic goes along there at far too fast a speed, especially because of children coming running out of Chapel Fields at school times. So, you know, let's not lose that issue amongst the wider issue, but can we get on with arranging the transport workshop, please, so that we can really start to think and look at what Nick was talking about whether we put a trial scheme in place for the bus exit lane.
I think we've picked up those bits. We can take those away.
I think before we start spending money on parking spaces, I think we need to look at how the current parking spaces are being used and when they're actually being used fully. Because I know the car parks were heavily underused previously. And I think we really need to understand that. But also, I'm thinking about our sustainability plan. Should we really be replacing those car parking spaces with more parking spaces, or should we actually be thinking about cycle parking and actually bringing in something that is more long-term, more sustainable, to get that modal shift away from the car in Biggleswade, which is what we're trying to do. So I think I don't think it's as straightforward as let's just replace the car parking spaces. I think it does require a little bit more thought.
It's a case of maintaining the current car parking spaces, which aren't adequate, and not everybody can walk or cycle into town to do the week shopping. And this is different. This is the short stay on street car parking as opposed to the longer stay in the car parks.
I think it's a valid point to consider all of those things. So I think that's important that we do all of that. So, Ian.
Just taking up what Madeline was saying about the parking spaces in Church Street, I think if you are going to be looking at the TRO for the bus lay-by, you might want to actually include on that, have a consultation discussion to actually regarding looking at some possible extra parking spaces, as it's a one-way street now. So that can be done at the same time.
Okay, so we've got that. We picked up that point, Madeline. So I think we've dealt with that one. Shall we move on? Anything else, Nick, that you've got in relation to transport interchange and the wider thing in relation to that?
Just kind of tangentially, that part of the Section 106 discussions I've had with Sam was around the toilets at the railway station, which Govia Thameslink are obviously it's their project that they're delivering, and whether we could contribute some money to that so that we get a public the accessible toilet, but also the toilet that's open to the general public as well. So that's part of the conversations that I've been having with Govia Thameslink, because it kind of all links that train station kind of area.
Perfect. I think that's really helpful. I think that would definitely be well received, Nick.
Okay, good.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So nothing else on the transport interchange. Nick, if we can then move on to Lindsell's.
Yeah, so Lindsell's Crossing, obviously that's the Bridleway Bridge and the movement of the rights of way. And there's not a great deal to say. We're kind of working through the design processes. There will be some rights of way, the minor rights of way changes in due course, because although we've altered the major part of the right of way to actually align them to the final bridge location, I think there's a matter of like 15 foot or something like that we actually need to modify the right of way. That will happen in due course, but just to say that as per it went through the planning process and got approval earlier this year. We're scheduled to start construction in October 2022 and sail the deck over at Christmas or Boxing Day, I think it is, in 2022. for the anticipated completion in June 2023.
Okay, members, any questions for Councillor Ross?
Can I just tell you something that's happened just now? We're doing the consultation for the neighbourhood plan, and I've just spent 20 minutes plus talking to a lady about Lindsell's Crossing, and she is convinced that it's not necessary at all to spend all that money, because when she crosses Lindsell's Crossing, she can tell from the vibrations on the lines how far away the trains are.
Perfect.
And she thought that was more than adequate. So
On that basis,
just get on with it, Nick.
Okay.
thank you for that. I think we'll perhaps ignore that information and move on. Anybody in relation to Lindsell's, any questions, any comments? Okay, thank you very much. So anything else, Ingrid, around? You've got garden communities and any other bits that you wanted to talk about?
So I think it's back to me. So this is a bit of why we've had a delay here around some of the consultation we wanted to do. So I wanted to work with the same consultants that we use around garden communities on the town centre work. But we've made a change now. So I think some of you would have been aware of that. So we were working with a company called Keepable Ground through Cornerstone, and that's now been changed to Tybald's. So I think some of you will be familiar with Katja from Tybald's. She did the character study on Biggleswade. If you haven't seen that, I can share that again, but it was done a couple of years ago. It was a really good piece of work on Biggleswade, and I'm pretty sure we did share it. So we've now got Katja and Tybald's on board, taking forward all the consultation around garden communities. So that will be around the sustainable transport corridor, which will also look at town centre, but also look about movement over to the major employment sites as well at Stratton. And then it will also take into account consultation and community engagement around what I'll refer to as sustainable energy efficiency. So here I'm not talking about power capacity or anything like that, but just how do you build energy efficient homes? Do you know what works well? What's the current thinking? That kind of thing. And then also community consultation around biodiversity. So how we protect the area, how we can improve it, what we want to do around the green space involved in the garden communities. So Tybald's doing all of that work now. So they will be coming to talk to you guys. So we think it was a bit too short notice really to come to this today. But what the current thinking is that we're aiming for events, our consultation events towards the end of January. So we'll be coming back to talk to you about that, the design of those, what that will involve, kinds of people we want to be working with, what your ideas and thinking are. You'll be able to influence the thinking of Tybald's around that, but I do like what I'm seeing. So quite high energy, innovative ideas they've got. So we will be in touch with you to share more about that in sort of November, December time, and then we'll come formally to the Joint Committee in January to agree that with you guys. So we have had a couple of meetings where we have involved the Town Council in those meetings. So Kareem's been along to those, and that's got a better feel to it all now, I think, for where we're going on that. So yeah, that's what.
So can I interrupt you? So I know you were in mid-flow. Kareem had some point, I think, in relation to what you were going to
Thank
talk
you,
about.
Hi, Ingrid and everybody. The document you referred to is still in my inbox. It's been an incredibly long week, as you said at the beginning of the meeting. So apologies if I haven't circulated it around.
Okay. Sorry, Ingrid, carry on. Is there anything else you
no worries. No, so I think that was it on garden communities, but I've got a bit of a off the agenda item, having just been at our assets management group. So a bit of an update. I've got a few on the library, on what's happening with the library and also with the London Road site on that. So our access team, having taken advice now on the process around this, will be coming back out with a proper formal 12-week consultation around the change proposed to the library and the registrar's office, so that you'll start seeing information and documents around that consultation process, what's happening there. And then you might see some activity at the London Road Centre, and that is because we've agreed it will be a temporary vaccination centre over the winter. So that's what's happening there. So you might see some activity starting next week around that. And then that's all I've got to you. I think I'm back on the agenda later to talk about the co-op and employment.
Okay, so just in relation to that, you said about the library, so essentially are we looking to have the registrars within the library? Is that what I read from that?
Yeah, so it would be the births and deaths. So they were not talking about the wedding services operating out of the library. It's more the formal kind of the back of the office type work. And there was some children's service activities they were looking at moving to the library as well. I can't think off the top of my head what that was. So it was looking at still maintaining the library. You know, it's a popular library, well used, but adding to the services that would deliver out of that, while then having efficiencies really at the London Road site.
I think that relates to the children's element. I think relates to the children's centre being based in what was the garage. There was a planning application went through, wasn't it? So it probably potentially relates to that.
That's it. Yeah. So you'll see some formal consultation happening now around that. So it's kind of thank you to, I know some members raised this with me with concern a couple of months ago. So you've managed to influence positively there to make sure this goes to consultation.
Good stuff. Any questions, members, on?
I'm just a bit confused, Ingrid, because I thought we'd seen an email that said that the work on the library was, are you still there? Yes, one might ask. Sorry, you went, the screen went blank, Ingrid.
Okay, I'm still here, I can see and hear you.
I saw a document that said that there would be 12 weeks of closure of the library for the work to be done, and you're now talking about a consultation. But
so they have to do. Yeah, so the closure will be delayed, Madeline. They have to do a consultation on that closure and what the library will be used for. So,
and we can expect that soon, can we?
That was my understanding, yeah. So I can push to get more information on that.
Okay, so we were told that it would close this month for 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's not happening now, no.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, members, any other questions in relation to Ingrid's updates? I see no hands. Okay, so Ingrid, thank you very much for that. But as you say, you're on a little bit later.
On later, yeah.
So we've got the next item on the agenda is the Integrated Health and Care Hub. Patricia.
Somebody's got to let Patricia in, I think.
She's in. She's in.
She's just muted.
Apologies, I'm just trying to sort myself out and get, there we go.
There we go, excellent.
Thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you. So it's really just a brief update on where we are with the Biggleswade hub. We have now reconvened our discussions so that we can progress the work on the hub. One of the things we've had to we need to resolve is about the land, which is this the Biggleswade Hospital site. We have progressed our discussion with NHS Property Services so that we can secure the site as a local asset. In addition to this, and in light of the new partnership arrangement with the integrated care system, which is beginning to give local health and care partnerships greater autonomy at local level, we're also having a discussion to see whether there are other ways in which we can actually secure the hospital site as a sort of a more flexible way to secure it, really. So we're working with NHS partners, separately on that. And that is also in conjunction with the Bedfordshire NHS Hospital Trusts, because the hospital trust, as you may know, has taken a real keen interest in the whole hub programme across Bedfordshire, and is also acting as the head leaseholder for the Dunstable hub. So we have really strong partnership, which is to be applauded. Really strong partnership with the acute system as well. So in that sense, we're working with them again to see how we can explore the better option of bringing that as part of an asset transfer into the Bedfordshire system. Subject, of course, to system challenges and how health and care partners are able to respond to COVID, or whatever challenges COVID posed for us over the next few months. We're also planning to reconvene the work on the service model for the hub. This will look at other range of services over and above the core elements of what we expect to be in an integrated health and care hub. So that requires engagement with the wider group of GPs. We'll have engagement with local residents and key local stakeholders, and also perhaps some of the hospitals. So for instance, whilst we'll engage with Bedford Hospital because they are within our integrated care system, we will also be engaging with the Lister as well, just to recognize the footprint that local residents go to, so that we develop a model for an integrated health and care hub that really just meets the needs of local residents as well. In addition to this, we're also convening work now to develop the outline business case. So we have now identified a project manager that is going to support this work, and we're arranging a scoping meeting with prospective service providers to begin to build the schedule of accommodation. I suppose in light of the time lag on our initial planning aspirations, and the time lag again has been very severely impacted by COVID, as you know, we now need to revisit the program plan and to reprofile the program timeline. So I'm not currently in a position to say that this is when we're going to get to the point where we're going to begin local engagement, or when we're going to sort of get to groundbreaking, that sort of thing. So we need to really have a conversation with lots of partners to see how we can profile that and give you a very clear program timeline on that. It is, however, very important to say at this point that whilst we have this ambition for integrated health and care hubs, we are also ensuring that there is actually increasing joint working and collaboration across primary care, community, mental health, and social care to support those who are requiring care and support. We have a vision in our minds in terms of what and how an integrated health and care hub should function, and the sort of improvements that we would like to see delivering to local residents. What is very important is that we shouldn't wait until we have this physical building to begin to sort of work in this way. What we want to do is to actually be running and profiling that work and be delivering that, so that by the time we get to the point where we have a physical building or a physical asset, we can basically just lift that pattern of working into the new building, and they can hit the ground running. So a lot of work is also going on alongside all of our planning, looking at transforming the clinical strategy and also how people are going to work together when they move into an integrated health and care hub. So I hope that's helpful.
Okay, Patricia, thank you very much for that. Hayley, got a question?
Yeah. So Patricia, the site has always been difficult, and the negotiations with the NHS have always been difficult over that site. And I'm conscious from a resident perspective, it's a little bit out on a limb, and it will be difficult for some residents to get to. Given that the London Road site, which is 5 hectares, is now becoming available, and it wasn't when we did the scoping for the health hub many years ago originally, isn't it more realistic now to think about that London Road site for the health hub, given that we already own that land, Central Beds already owns that land, and we could just progress straight away with it, and we wouldn't have to even have these negotiations.
I don't know the details about the London Road site or where it's at, so I will need to perhaps refer back to my colleagues in the council. I have to say that certainly one of the things that we would expect to happen when we convene the work on the outline business case is really to undertake another off-site options appraisal. So certainly the early work that we did in terms of the strategic case, which had a lot of engagement from local people, it was very clear that Steppingley Hospital and retaining the asset of Steppingley Hospital was quite key to that, and that was one of the reasons why we went with that. Apart from also, it was perhaps the most that was available at the time. So given the time lag, as I said, in all of this, I mean, good practice would require us to revisit what is available and do that work again as part of the outline business case work. So we will be looking at what other assets are available in the area, where the housing expansion is going to be, particularly to make sure that the location of the hub is fitting and meeting the needs of not only the current population, but also anticipating where it needs to be in light of perhaps a growing population and expanding housing footprint as well. So we will do all of that work again, and I'm sure we will be having this conversation again.
It's well worth, I mean, clearly, if that's something that's going to be considered, as long as we're not too far down the line with the NHS, I guess, but it's certainly something that we've got it's well worth considering, isn't it? Unless ASSOS have got another plan that we're not fully aware of yet.
I shall certainly take that on board.
Okay, any questions, members? Councillor Russell.
I know it's not your fault, Patricia, and I agree that the London Road site needs to be looked at, because you were talking in July about the heads of terms for the site being available by December to go to executive. Now it's obvious that we're nowhere near that. And I just have to say that the whole health situation in Biggleswade is so bad now, access to GPs in particular, but people keep saying to us now, because we're looking at the neighbourhood plan, why aren't you providing a new GP surgery? We know the issue with lack of availability of qualified GPs nationally. That's a large part of the equation, but people out there cannot understand why we aren't providing a new building that can accommodate GPs. And the longer this goes on and on and on, we are losing all credibility as councils with the people that we represent.
Okay, I think the heads of terms we have got heads of terms discussion. Like I said, we have made really good progress with NHS Property Services. So we have some terms on which we can actually take the Biggleswade asset. Is it terms that really, perhaps in the scheme of things, is that the most preferable for us? And in terms of how we use the public purse, that's why we're also looking at the option for asset transfer, which is a new NHS policy that we're trying to look at with the hospital as an option. But we do have in our back pocket the option of this agreement with NHS Property Services, which we can always take forward if that is where we decide we want to go. And again, I know that my colleagues in assets have still got that in terms of the pipeline of work that needs to go to executive. So we're hoping to have reached a decision by the time we need to take something to the executive as planned. With regards to access to GPs, I mean, as I said, we are looking at the challenge is one that is nationwide, and you'd have heard it on the news this morning as well. It's where we are locally, and I do know that health colleagues are looking at various options for how to mitigate the impact of this for local people. One of the key things that we're working on that is being implemented is new roles within primary care to be able to support people so that people don't have to necessarily wait to see a GP until they can get some care and support or treatment that they need. GP practices through the primary care network framework now have additional roles like a paramedic, a pharmacist on site, first contact physiotherapists. So all sorts of those type of roles are now coming through. And as you probably know as well, we've got the community wellbeing champions or social prescribers. So there's a whole range of supports that actually works within the primary care network also to support the GPs as well. I'm not suggesting that is a perfect solution, but it is there. And I know that health colleagues are continuing to look at how to improve the option. I think nationally, the strategy is not to continue to build GP surgeries, because it is about the delivery of primary care at scale. So that is why they've created this primary care networks particularly. And
well,
so
we're getting to a point, I think we understand, Patricia, I don't want to interrupt you, but I think we understand the principle behind it, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just come back very briefly? So just to come back on this, so this morning there was lots of announcements about primary healthcare, and one of the things that was said was that there will be an improvement to telephone access, for example, telephone services, so that it was easier to contact your GP. Now, most people around this table will know that some of the services in Biggleswade, the telephone services haven't been working now properly for over a week, 10 days, and I contacted the CCG about this. The problem is that the CCGs, as far as I was told by the head of the CCG, are not responsible for the phone service and can't dictate what phone service a GP service can actually use. So we can't force GPs to be more accessible. We can't fix the problems that we have at the moment with the systems that are in place. So we're all stymied, and the bottom line is our residents can't access GPs. And if they can't get through on the phone, they turn up in person. And right now, we don't want people congregating at GP surgeries. So we're just creating a bigger and bigger mess. And I'm not, at the moment, I can't see any solution or resolution to what we've got on either a national or local level. I'm just hearing words.
And I think at this point, I don't think at this point we're able to resolve that. I think
No.
it just needs to be recognised that, as we're all aware, there are concerns. Admittedly, it is national, but locally there are genuine issues. Town Council is looking to invite the office manager and the practice manager from the local doctors to the Town Council at some point in due course. But I think it would be helpful to have your support to try and encourage something around the telephone response, because it is a problem for us. But it's not something this meeting is really going to be able to resolve. So I think we need to focus on the health hub element. But it's a absolutely valid point. Is there anything else in relation to the health hub that members wishes to ask questions about or feedback on?
Do we have a timeline? That's what I'm
Councillor Whittaker's asked for a timeline. I think, did I say that the timeline was, we've got to revisit the timeline?
I did, I said that.
So at the moment, we haven't got an end date in mind, no?
No, we haven't got, because we do need to reprofile the end date. So
Okay.
I suspect that by the time I come back to you again, I will have a date for you.
No problem. Don't want to labour the point, Patricia, if you don't mind. As I say, I think we know where we stand. So there's no confirmed end date, because you've got to revisit the programme, which I think we understand. It's frustrating, but I think we understand what you've said. Members, anything else in relation to the health hub then?
No.
No. Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you, Patricia. Thank you for coming. So the next item on the agenda is the update from Stephen. Obviously, I know Stephen's not here. So around the sustainability plan and projects. Who's if anyone's doing that? If not, I guess there's no one here that's going to be updating on that one. Okay. In which case,
We've got a Stephen here.
we have.
Personally, I was at a meeting with him yesterday. He wasn't well then, but I didn't realise he wasn't coming on today.
That's not a problem.
I'll get something to circulate around. That's all right.
Thanks. Okay. So thank you. So the next item on the agenda then is the update on the neighbourhood, Biggleswade neighbourhood plan. Karim, over to you.
Thanks, everybody. We're now well underway with our public consultation on Regulation 19. Leafleting has been distributed to all the postcodes. Stop there. And the banners are being worked on in terms of the main entry points to the north end of town.
So in terms of the banners, purpose of the banners being?
So that they're easily visible.
So what's the purpose of the banner? What's on the banner? What's the content of the banner?
It's about the consultation. So we've got banners and posters,
So
and as
fine.
Karim said, a leaflet to every address in Biggleswade,
Fine.
both business and
I'm
residential.
just for the benefit of the people maybe watching. So I wonder
Yeah.
what it's to the advertising of the consultation and fine.
Karim, can I just ask you to be a bit clearer about how we're gathering information back? So there's a digital offer as well, is there not? Yes, I can confirm that. There is. You want to explain what's happening about the digital offer? How people log on and how that's captured? Absolutely, it's on our website. Anybody can certainly log into it, see it, and click through the banner page, getting into the feedback area, whilst entering key details, and encourage whoever can to use that.
So is that advertised on this? It's on the website. It's advertised on the leaflet.
And it's got that through social media as well.
So we've got. So it's trying to get as much information across as many people who participate in the consultation as possible. So remember, anyone can share that. But I think it's obviously the meetings and the.
So what I wanted to say, I suppose, just to supplement what Karim said, is that we recognise that things go cold quite quickly. So we need to even this week we've said that we need to reawaken knowledge connected to everything. We need to go back out to social media. Need to go back out to website. Need to go back out to local press and just try and again just keep people's attention so that they take advantage of this opportunity.
It's amazing how many people say I haven't seen it on Facebook, I haven't seen it on social media, even though it's been blasted all over. But it might feel to officers that it hasn't been shared, or it has been shared, sorry, but residents will say, well, I didn't see it because it's not every hour or whatever. It needs to be a little bit more often than that.
We need to be careful about the assumption that people know. We need to keep people's attention to this so that they get the opportunity. Plus the fact that obviously our members, certain selected members, are obviously having direct opportunities to talk to people, like there is in the town council today and at the Orchard Centre, to say, come along, let's explain what's happening. And if you have a submission or any comments to make, we'll capture that information for you. Yeah. And there'll be a laptop there so that you can submit if you want to.
I think the important thing is to get as many people as possible involved in the consultation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please. I think we all are totally engaged with the local plan and the neighbourhood plan, and we totally understand what it means and the impact that it can have on the town. I think for most people, it doesn't mean anything. If you say neighbourhood plan, it doesn't mean anything, and they don't understand what the impact could be on their day-to-day lives. So I would actually suggest almost doing a little focus piece on a business in the town, a family in the town, and actually saying this is how this neighbourhood plan could impact on this family, or might impact on you, or might impact on you, and that will mean more to those residents out there than just talking about a neighbourhood plan, because I think most people, the minute you say anything like that, they just switch off. So I think a little bit more about making it a bit more personal, and the impact of the neighbourhood plan might really make a difference.
Okay.
So that's just perhaps a social media element.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
So to make it
What it means for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's quite right. That's definitely something to pick up. And if, as you say, most people will just go neighbourhood plan, eyes glaze over. Oh, it's another consultation. I think that's fair. We've had a lot of consultations, and we want to try and encourage as much participation in that. And if that means people understand what it means to them, So
what we're also doing is we're reaching back out to third sector and saying, please can we remind you that this is taking place? Please reach out to the people that you support and remind them that they have a voice and we want to listen to it.
So
we'll work on some case studies.
Yeah, I really will.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything else? I've got Ingrid's hand up. Did you intend to have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to say that when we were doing the power consultation, that it was after Richard Fuller advertised it on his website, we got a load more people coming where we hadn't been expecting them to. So I don't know whether, I know the neighbourhood plan is something different, but I don't know whether he'd be prepared to share that about consultation happening. But it was certainly helpful for encouraging people to get involved where we hadn't. It was our final online event that we had actually no one signing up, and then Richard Fuller advertised it, and we still only got, I think it was another 6 people, but nevertheless it was a good conversation we had that evening with those people. So just a thought there, but I think you're doing well. It is really difficult to engage people, and you are doing well on the involvement you've got. That was it, sorry.
Okay, no problem, thank you, Ingrid.
I'll just confirm, we'll take that on board. I think it's a very good idea. Thank you, Ingrid.
Yeah. Okay, if we've got nothing else in relation to the neighbourhood plan then. The next item on the agenda is the economy and town centre improvements. So we're over to Philip and an update on the Welcome Back Fund projects, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, by way of introduction, I have to say that this is an area of work which I've only recently sort of become involved with. You'll see from the last minutes that Simon Newton gave the last report. Simon has, for people who don't know, left the Employment Council, and I'm now doing basically picking up some of his work. Karim has been working on this as well in the interim, so I have to sort of give my gratitude to you for helping me with some of this work. I know Karim wants to talk about some of the sort of high level sort of information that we've got to give to you about the scheme. So can I pass over to you at this point?
Thanks very much, Chairman. Thanks. So actually the gratitude is the other way around, but that's with all the kind of smooth that we've been having. So thank you for that sincerely. I'm going to say very little indeed on the town centre expectations and as I watched the national news, I think it was last night.
So is that,
Well,